So you guys are going to be stars of the Pipes Magazine radio show. So we're going to be stars. That's all I'm saying. Brian Levine, the host of the Pipes Magazine radio show, and quite a cool guy. And the reason why Disney pipes costs over $1 million. So, Brian, welcome.
David, Dorian, thanks for having me back. So yeah, this is going to be fun. Anytime I get to talk about the mouse is always fun. Except you can't smoke there anymore, which sucks. So, except at Disneyland Paris and Tokyo Disneyland and Shanghai and Hong Kong. So for those of you overseas, you get to smoke there. For those of us here in the United States of America, you don't get to smoke there. Yeah. So anyway, let me. So first of all, we'll take probably the first 45 minutes or so to get through the Disney tobacco collection that I have. And I'll take questions on that. And then what I'll do is I'll switch over and I'll change a few things here for about 2 minutes. And then you guys get to ask me any questions you want and we'll record it. I'll record it exactly the same way I do any guests that appear on the Pipes Magazine radio show. Start thinking about your questions because I guess I'm with you through the Zoom part of the meeting. So those of you on the Zoom part, I can hear your questions. Think about your questions going all the way back to my time with working at Dunhill, working for Hulk O'Rourke on the import side, Peter Stokeby, the Trade Association, Brigham, Sutliff. Any questions pipe and tobacco related. There are no silly questions. And if you think it's already been asked before and you're too embarrassed to ask it, don't think that. Because if you're thinking about it and you want to know about it, odds are other people do. And if you think I've answered it before, well, guess what? Odds are I have answered just about every question. And there's a pretty good chance my answer will have changed in the last few years or few weeks or few months, or the fact that my wife had me up at 5:30 this morning to do a yard sale may make my mood a little different. So my answer may be completely angry and unintelligible, which unintelligible is not a reach for me. I tend to hit that all the time. But yeah, so start thinking about those. We'll do probably about a 40-minute recording for the radio show.
And if I can jump in there for the guys over there on YouTube and on Facebook, I'm watching the stream. So if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in there. I'll make sure I ask them for you to Brian. And so you can be a part of the whole show as well. And if any of you guys were not here for the first time that Brian came and you're like, I don't know the backstory, like, go ahead and ask those questions too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Yeah. Sir, the floor is yours. But first, what are you smoking today?
Well, this is a pipe and it's got tobacco in the big hole. No, I regularly get asked what my old standby favorite tobacco is, and it's a McClellan called Blakeney's Best Acadian Ribbon. And I've always told this story since I came out of the closet as to what my favorite tobacco was, primarily because I was no longer working for the competition. But this is a blend that McClellan came out with in 2005, and the entire Blakeney's Best line did not do very well. This one in particular was the lowest selling tinned Virginia Perique that McClellan ever did. And I ended up consuming 1/4 of the production that they ever made. So I am one of those arrogant elitist snobs that is smoking a 2006 canned McClellan Virginia Perique, and that's my everyday. This pipe is what has now been coined by Jody Davis as the workhorse Billiard, because this is the new version of, do I have the other pipe here? No. This is a new version of a older pipe of Jody's that I picked up and I travel the world with. So Jody now calls this his workhorse billiard, and I'm now abusing it and beating it up like a workhorse billiard should be. So did that answer that? Probably longer than you wanted, too. A little backstory. Disneyland opened in 1955, and the premise that Walt Disney wanted was he wanted some sort of an amusement or a place where both parents and children could go and there would be entertainment for all ages at this amusement. He didn't know what to call it. So he got tired of going to the park and the kids would ride the carousel and he'd sit on a park bench. So he wanted some sort of amusement where he could have this entertainment. When Disneyland opened in 1955, Main Street itself was a representation of the early 1900s traditional Main Street USA. So when you walk into Main Street, there's a flagpole in the middle of town square. There's a city hall, there's an opera house, a train station, there's a police station, a fire station. And the shops on Main Street were, I mean, these are actual shops that were there on opening day of 1955. There was a meat and deli shop where you could actually buy meats, cuts of meats. There was a Wurlitzer piano store where you could buy a Wurlitzer piano. There was an Upjohn pharmacy. My favorite one lasted for about 2 or 3 years, and it was called the Wizard of Bras. And yes, you could go to Disneyland and get, they had this guy that did custom made bras in Hollywood for all the movie stars. And he opened up a small store on Main Street where you could go in and get a custom fitted bra right there at Disneyland. My favorite shop was the tobacco shop. The tobacco shop at Disneyland opened on opening day 1955 and it closed in May of 1990. The tobacco shop itself was about 200 square feet and was a full service, full line tobacco shop. And I've got some examples of some of the basics, but not only did they sell cigarettes, cigars, chewing tobacco, pipe tobacco, they sold pipes, accessories. It was, if you looked at what a 1900s Main Street tobacco shop was, that was it. When they opened up the Magic Kingdom in Florida at Walt Disney World, they opened up with another version of the tobacco shop. And I guess I'll just start. So, and that shop closed in 1988 and was merged into part of the other shops then. And then by the end of the 90s, they stopped selling any tobacco visible in the parks. And then right around 2005, 6, or 7, they took all the tobacco out of the parks. You can still buy tobacco products at the hotels, at their gift shops, but it's all hidden under the counter. But I guess we'll start off with the heavy hitters, the less interesting to us because they're not pipe related. But
while Brian's pulling that out, let me comment on some of the guys who haven't been here very much, who are on a mobile device, like a tablet or a phone or something like that. And if you haven't mastered Zoom in all this time during the pandemic, there's a couple of tricks there. You can finger swipe across the screen to see different views. So you might want to just finger swipe from left to right to go back to the screen where Brian's probably front and center. But if you want to scroll through to see any of the other gallery, that's how you do it. All right, back to you, sir.
So these are just some loose cigar bands that were used for Disneyland because they had their own private label brand of cigars at Disneyland. So you could go in and get Disneyland cigars. I think my favorite, besides the fact you can still find, this is just a little gas filled, what brand is this? Gas filled Japan something, but they sold lighters with the castle on them. You want to spend some real money, find a Disneyland lighter, a Disneyland Zippo lighter that's unstruck, still in the box. So they had branded lighters, they had accessories, they had Donald Duck lighters. So you had all that. If you went to Walt Disney World, the Walt Disney World tobacco shop was much more into branding. And one of the things they did, and this dates to about 1972, is it's a box of 25 cigars. I'm trying to get the camera framed right there. These are made in Miami, Florida, and of course they claim Cuban seed, blah 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 blah. But inside the box is my favorite part of it. And those of you that may have bought a box of cigars know that there's usually a piece of wax paper. This piece of wax paper down at the bottom basically says, proudly, Walt Disney World proudly offers to our guests the very finest cigars available, entirely handmade by Cuban craftsmen of carefully selected and blended tobacco, properly cured and aged. Exclusive cabinet packing and selecting assures exquisite aroma, the very ultimate in cigar smoking enjoyment. Here's the best part of it. Are you ready for this? This is the Walt Disney Company, which is anti-tobacco and is now editing tobacco out of their classics. Our cigars may be ordered by mail by addressing your inquiry to the Main Street Tobacco Shop, Walt Disney World, P.O. Box 40, Lake Buena Vista, Florida, and the zip code. There you go. So there's proof that the Walt Disney Company was in the mail order tobacco business. So this piece in particular just makes me giggle. And now they're trying to edit all that history out. But yeah, so you could go into the tobacco shop, buy a box of 25 cigars, and if you really liked them and you got home, well, then you could turn around and write them a check and put stamp it and mail it to them, and they'd send you a box of cigars. The hardest thing to find that I've ever found is who remembers Virginia Oval cigarettes? This is a pack of Virginia Oval king-size cigarettes with the Walt Disney World logo silk screened on the front. And the silk screen is on the back of their logo. The price tag was $1.50. And I think these are copyright dated 1971 Walt Disney Productions. So we know that that's probably when they did these, because Disney was nuts about updating their copyrights. The best part, here we have the Walt Disney World logo on the inside of the pack again. And then, because this is the only one that I've ever seen where I actually have the cigarettes, and I'm going to get real close because the cigarettes actually have the Walt Disney World Global D logo on the cigarette paper. So these are Mickey Mouse cigarettes, and they're real, 100% Walt Disney World sold these. And this is kind of the kind of stuff that the tobacco shop would do. And you could get Virginia Oval cigarettes from G.A. Georgopoulos and Company anywhere, but to get them private labeled with the Walt Disney World name on there, well, that's kind of pricey. I've never actually smoked any of these because when I got them, they were bone dry and crispy. And, but yeah, anyway, there's proof Mickey Mouse cigarettes. Now, onto the stuff that we really like. And I've got a few more examples, but I've got more examples that I can pull out, but I've got the, in the tobacco shop for us pipe guys, you could go in and buy a tin of Prince Albert, and that one was priced $1.20 for the metal tin of Prince Albert, which they sold right off the shelf. for my dear friends at Sutliff. There it is, Edward G. Robinson mixture. And this was sold, I have no idea when, but it was sold for 60 cents at Disneyland. So you could go in and get branded pipe tobacco. You could get tins and pouches. And then what they did was they had a bulk program. You could go in and get a bulk tobacco, and they had basically 3 different styles, but you could walk in and you could get either a pouch, a small can, or I also have some of the large cans. And then they would hand pack it right there for you. The blends came in exactly what you would think, the basics. Here's a mildly aromatic. Excuse me. Here's a special blend non-aromatic. And then those that know me and know how much I love this is the only Latakia blend I have in my house, because this is a Disneyland special Latakia blend pouch. I got lucky enough that these are the original pouches with the original tobaccos. I've put a little tape on them to keep them closed. But this one, I believe I can get open. Yeah. The tobacco's bone dry crispy, but there it is. All 3 of these are full, and I got them full. So I didn't buy them myself, but I found somebody who was selling them. And again, here's on the pouch, there's the mailing address for the tobacco shop at Disneyland. So they were, again, promoting their mailing address and promoting where to get tobacco and how to order it. But again, if you walked in, say you were there with the family for the day and you were wandering around, you could walk in and you could hand select out of their bulk tobaccos that were custom blended for them, which means they were probably in the 60s, they were probably World Tobacco or maybe some Lane Limited blends at that point, maybe some US tobacco blends. But you could get a custom blended tobacco and then get it hand packed in a 1.5 ounce pouch, an 8 ounce can, and I've got some 12 or 16 ounce cans over there that if you really want to see them, I can bring them. So they had tobacco too. I mean, you could literally go in there and get tobacco. Disneyland itself did not have a lot of branded pipes, but this one and this one are the only 2 that I have that are actually stamped from Disneyland. And I got to get my big mitts out of the way. Let me get over the microphone there. These 2 are Sheraton International selections, and Sheraton, the International selection, was kind of their rejects. And if you bought them by the gross, you could stamp your name on them. So this one on the bottom has Disneyland, and the stamping's really light. And this one has another Disneyland stamp down there. But again, so what I did was when I started doing when I started the collection, I wanted to find out who the manufacturers were. So I did a lot of research, and it's really hard to tell, but there's a, let me see if I can do it with the light on it. It says made in London, England, and the stampings are identical to what Sheraton was doing back in those days. And then if you look at that one, that's just a pure Sheraton shape. So through my years in the hobby, I was able to start to figure out what factories were they buying from. Walt Disney World was a little more prolific in the manufacturing of logoed pipes. This is kind of a good example of what a basic Walt Disney World pipe might look like. And this is just an Italian rusticated pipe with a decorative ferrule that's, some sort of plastic. And the process was the Disney company, the Walt Disney World tobacco shop would have a buyer that would go to the sales reps and say, all right, you sell us tobacco products. We need a bid for, 600. What's your best prices? And give us some bids. So they would then go to their importers and find out. And then they would send them the stamp. And this one is marked made in Italy, because it came over with the Italy stamp on it. And then Walt Disney World put their own stamp on it locally. But this is the essential quality of this is a basket. It's a basket pipe or a board pipe that you might find in a smoke shop. They're not, they're not first run great product. But again, for us as pipe smokers, if we go to Walt Disney World with the family and and the family wants to get a Mickey Mouse t-shirt and balloons and stuff, well, here's our adult gift. We're going to pick out a souvenir that's for us, and then we could pick it out, buy some tobacco right there, load it, pack it, and walk right down Main Street smoking that pipe wherever you wanted, except if you got in line. They always had a no smoking while in line policy. But this one's just a no-name Italy. This one is a completely unknown panel sandblasted billiard with a square shank that I have a feeling I know where it was made, because I'll show you in the next one. This is a completely unsmoked, made in the Camoys Cadogan factory, probably right around the era that they owned, that Camoys owned Barling, Sassini, and a handful of other smaller brands. This one, again, unsmoked, completely stamped. And the best part is they started using a hot dye stamp for some of the Mickey logos on the stems. So you can find a good amount of these with Mickey logos right on the stem. So you can have a Mickey Mouse sticking at you while you're walking around Walt Disney World smoking your brand new pipe. I'm often asked what is my favorite pipe in the collection, and this is it. This one took a little bit of research. And so what I started doing was looking through online old pipe factory catalogs to find shape charts. This one's stamped on the bottom, Walt Disney World, made in England, shape 343. All right, so I started looking at it, and just by the shape of it, I was looking at it going, okay, English billiard, yeah, all right, 343. And I poked around and started chasing after it and discovered that it was made by Parker. This is the Parker Billiard, made by Parker during the time that Dunhill owned them. So this one's stamped Walt Disney World, and then the more special part of it is because it came out of the Dunhill factory. I'm going to get out of the way a little bit. Those are inlaid, drilled Mickey. That's an inlaid, drilled Mickey logo, similar to the same way they drilled the Dunhill white dot. And this is the only one I've ever seen like this. And it's just my favorite. So I always tell my wife, I said, look, if there's a fire in the house, I'm going after the pipe first, and you try to figure your way to the door. Because I'm more worried about getting this pipe. I can find more wives. She's not here, so I'm safe. She won't kill me. But that's, the basics of the pipes, and kind of let me give you a little bit of background on the collection. Started because I really couldn't afford a whole bunch of real fancy straight grain high dollar pipes, and I wanted to have a bit of a collection. And I started buying these for, $10-20 at pipe shows. I'd find them on eBay for $20-25. And then there was an article written on the collection by Chuck Stanion in Pipes and Tobaccos magazine in 2006. And I have not been able to afford my own collection since then. Because all of a sudden everybody wanted one. I now have the entire collection is on Facebook at Disney Tobacciana Collection. It's an open fan page group that You can go look anytime you want. You don't have to like it or sign up or whisper any secret question in my ear to get in there and look at it. But everything that I have is there, including all the ashtrays that I've collected, the matchbooks. For the first time in a long time, it's actually all on display. I'll tilt the camera so everybody hold on. Here comes an earthquake, but it's all on display right there, including that custom pipe board that's up on the top. That's a rotating Mickey head pipe board that I made. But I wanted to have a collection of something that was unique. I grew up in California, going to Disneyland all the time, and then I worked at Disneyland from 1986 to 1990. And I remember the day that the tobacco shop closed, because I could go into the tobacco shop there and buy cigarettes with my employee discount. They were cheaper than buying them at the cheapest places in any stores. So I was going in there buying cigarettes at the tobacco shop, and then they closed.